Hi everyone, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, today we're talking about The Bard's Tale. But you know what? Even though this wall and I go back a while, I don't think it's fitting for this scenario. So yeah, just roll the intro and we'll meet in front of something more fitting, I hope.
RetroKork.
Well, looks quite fitting, even though it's not the best green screen possible. But we're not here for the visual effects. We're not necessarily here for the visual effects. We're here because of The Bard's Tale. So, welcome to the world of The Bard's Tale, a game that was originally produced by Interplay and then published by Electronic Arts before they dropped the C, I believe, but at least before they became the corporate. The biggest contributions of the game, The Bard's Tale, to the video game culture and to gaming role-playing games in general, the Bard. Now hear me out. The Bard, as someone who uses music as an inert, not an inert, but a natural magic. This game was, as far as I know, the first to do that, even though it's highly inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. This is also a game series where my main exposure to it didn't happen on the Commodore 64. Big shock, I know. So we're going to look at it on the computer that I saw it the most, which happens to be an MS-DOS computer, an IBM compatible. Well, these games were released on the Commodore 64. I personally prefer the MS-DOS version, though it might be a visual preference of my own. And you're of course free to choose by yourself. Well, then I will give you now, or at least I will attempt to give you now, a look at both versions walking through the same places. The town we are walking through is, by the way, called Scarabray and is in no way related to Ultimus Scarabray. Well, it is kind of, because they've been both inspired by the real-life place Scarabray, which is a Neolithic place, a Neolithic town settlement in Scotland. As you can see, the designs are visually different, especially at the user interface. The MS-DOS version is mostly grey, trying to mimic stone, in EGA at least, whereas the Commodore 64 version goes with black and therefore looks quite simple. So yeah, speaking of it, EGA graphics for me win a bit because of the artwork, simply speaking. But of course, the best version of this game, and I'm using this term loosely because it isn't really a version of this game, it's more or less a remake, a reimagining, using the Bard's Tale construction kit, was the demo adventure included in that program, which unfortunately never was released on the Commodore 64, but it was 256 colors, so full VGA and CGA colors. So yeah, unlike my previous reviews, this one will be done on an MS-DOS computer using not CGA graphics, which are definitely inferior to the Commodore 64's 16 color palette, but the equivalent number of colors, an EGA palette. I'm using the EGA colors on an MS-DOS computer. So, what exactly is Interplay, and why should you care? Well, it is a town that has been struck by a curse, so to speak, as the evil wizard called Mangar the Dark. That's Mangar, not manga. Slight difference. He struck it with eternal winter, and he unleashed monsters on the streets and vagabonds. So young warriors, rogues, wizards, and young thirsty bards, they set out to end the reign of terror from Mangar. This truly is the stuff that legends are written about. Songs are played, but of course even the bard gets a dry throat once in a while after a lot of singing. Now that the premise is out of the way, let's get into the game itself. You first need to assemble a party of young adventurers. If you're not too keen on rolling up characters and you can re-roll and re-roll and re-roll over and over again, you can always take the characters that are already included in the game. They even have a party called AT. On some platforms you can also import characters from other games, Wizardry, Ultima 3. By the way, the place we're at, that's the guild. The only place, that's kind of a safe haven for your characters and where you can save your progress. And yeah, beyond the doors of the guild, there are the forces unleashed by Mangar and the Mad God. Yes, there is a Mad God involved. So on the streets of Interplay, you pass by various buildings. Most of them are nondescript buildings and they contain nothing more, maybe contain vagabonds. But one of them is Garth's Equipment Shop, which is your one-stop shop for everything an adventurer needs. Here you can buy and sell items, and even buy items back in case you notice that you kind of failed. Since most items only have a limited durability, you'll come here often. Then there is another place that's very important, the review board, which unfortunately you have to find on your own first. It's not on the map that's included with the game. The review board is the place where characters can actually level up and magicians learn new spells. Then there's also Roscoe's Energy Emporium, where magic users can get their spell points replenished. Unfortunately, Roscoe charges basically an arm and a leg for his service, just because you can't wait instantly. Then there are various temples where you can get healing, as well as, obvious for a game that's called The Bard's Tale, there are taverns. And one of them, only one of them, serves wine. That tavern actually is on Rackhere Street. But if you look at the Commodore 64 version, you basically stumble across the very first adventure yourself. They don't have the hint that I just gave you in the manual. As soon as you enter the wine cellar, which is connected to the sewers of Skarbray, yes, there is a sewer level, well, 3 of them, technically. You quickly identify that this game basically is a dungeon crawler. The first 3 members of your party, spot 1, 2, and 3, they are those who can attack enemies directly in hand-to-hand combat. The members 4 to 6, they are standing behind them, and these spots are best to be used with magic users and the bard too, because he's not the best fighter in the world. After all, the saying goes, when the going gets tough, the bard goes to the bar. Using the bard's songs as buffs, as you would call them nowadays, works wonders. So this is basically what the game introduced. But of course, sooner or later, throat will run dry, song will end. So when you, this is a good idea. It's a good idea before you go into a dungeon, hit a tavern, have a drink, and then move on. There's also something referred to as an archmage, but it's technically a magician or a conjurer, one of the magic user classes you can pull up at the start, who has reached all 7 levels of spells in all 4 arcane classes. Yes, you can switch arcane classes. We won't see a proper archmage until the next game, so that's something for you. Oh yeah, a few words regarding magic. Similar to Ultima, you enter in a 4-letter code, a 4-letter magic word, so to speak, for a spell. Your adventures through Skarbray take you to the wine cellar when you're starting out with a fresh party. Then you go through the catacombs of the Mad God's temple. Yes, he has a temple. You go to a place called Harkin's Castle, Hilaran's Tower, and then ultimately you reach Mangar's Tower. And of course, during those movements, during those explorations, you're bound to encounter monsters, enemies. Combat is round-based and is somewhat inspired, as I said, by Dungeons and Dragons. Except, of course, you don't roll for initiative. As I mentioned just a few moments ago, only the first 3 party members and the character in the S, which is reserved for special kinds of characters, monsters that want to join you, or something you conjure up, illusion up. They can attack the enemy directly. The last 3 places, 4, 5, and 6, they're limited in their capabilities and are reserved basically for longer range combatants, which includes, of course, the bard, but I'm repeating myself. The fighting screen, as well as pretty much every screen in the game, is rather self-explanatory, and yes, combat is completely done in text. So the only thing you might need to know are a few keys, and even though you probably have your manual next to you because of the magic spells, and you need the map for copy protection purposes, I believe. Unless, of course, you have it all memorized. But of course, you need a few keys, and left cursor turns you left, right cursor turns you right, return moves you forward, and forward I believe moves you forward as well. Up. J and L allow you to sidestep either left or right respectively. The number keys 1 through 6 show you the character sheet, so to speak. The character in that position. C allows you to cast a spell outside of combat. B asks your bard to sing a song. N allows you to modify the marching order. P starts the fight within the party. By the way, the bard knows 6 songs in this game. There probably are more keys available, but then again, these are the keys that you will need the most out of combat. And that's all I'm going to tell you about the Bard's Tale, because, well, we're almost 2 pages right now, and so I'm not going to talk about the second and third part of the series, but I will see you in 2 weeks when I will do that, talking about the second part of the series, where we will find out what happened after the adventures in Skara Brae. What? I already told you that I would take a look in 2 weeks at the Bard's Tale 2.